Guess who's back? I'm back. Sooner than expected, right? Don't get used to it. I might not be next week. But let's make it sweet and let's make it quick. Because, in case you didn't check your calendar, we are in March, which means we are pretty much done with 2026. What an incredible year. Glad it's finished. Joking. Take it easy. We still have lots of time for you to do absolutely nothing with your life. Welcome to the team. Besides all of that, since it's March, we already had two big studios releasing movies, that being Pixar and Sony. So, is Sony gonna keep the crown from 2025? It's Pixar coming back to take it? Let's find out. So, let's start with Pixar. Pixar was the shit. In the 2000s, you couldn't have a conversation about animation without Pixar. They were the top. They took what Disney made for the last 6 decades and finally showed them, hey, look, somebody can make it better. And I don't know, from Toy Story, Nemo, Monsters Inc., Up, Cars, Wall-E, you couldn't beat Pixar. DreamWorks tried, and to be honest, in my opinion, did it multiple times, but Pixar was overall the best, as much as it hurts me to say it. But because every single empire falls, after the year of 2020, after Soul, Pixar went into the dark times. But it's not all Pixar, you can't just blame Pixar for everything. Because Disney contributed a lot to the decline by putting Pixar movies, that being Luca and Turning Red, onto streaming. But they kept the Disney movies, like Raya, in cinemas, making Pixar seem like a lesser studio, which hurted a lot, especially for the crisis in which Pixar was at the time. That action didn't help at all, because even though we can blame it on Pixar, the movies are still mid, in my opinion. I mean, Luca and Turning Red are good, but are not the Pixar good. And that's mostly to blame on Pixar for raising the bar so high. Now everything that's not perfect, it's suddenly mediocre. And also, let's talk about Elemental and Alio. They exist. Elemental made some money after not making some money, but Alio just wasn't that. The Alio was. I like Alio, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a success by any measure. And then we have Inside Out 2, but that's a sequel. It's a good sequel, don't get me wrong, but it's a sequel nonetheless, and that takes a bit from the experience. Well, here we talk about originals. And on that front, Pixar didn't quite hit the mark in the last 5 years. On the other hand, Sony, that was exactly the opposite of Pixar, making just mediocre movies at best, took Emoji Movie extremely seriously. And after that, that made Spider-Verse. And after Spider-Verse, Sony went on a roll. They made Mitchells, they made K-pop, they made Across, and they just took the crown. Yes, they also made Angry Birds 2, but that wasn't bad, it was just a funny movie, it was better than the original, so credit where credit is due. They also made Transformania, and that was, we're gonna put Transformania in the old batch of movies that just happened to came out when the Sony ball was rolling, so we're gonna ignore it. And even Fixed, I know people don't like Fixed. I like Fixed. What can you do? I think Fixed, it's such a balls to the wall, non pun intended, movie that deserves credit, because you ain't gonna see Disney, you ain't gonna see DreamWorks, you ain't gonna see nobody doing that type of movie. And we should give Sony some credit. Sony, Pixar, Hoppers, Goat, what's the deal? So I made these 5 categories. We have animation, story, characters, music, and influence. Who's gonna take the most points? They are the winner. So, animation. When we talk about animation, we mostly talk about the movement. The character design and the design of everything else, we're gonna put it in the character space. That's why we made it. So, based on animation, based on movement, come on, man. It's Sony. If they know one thing how to do and do good, that's animation. The animation in Goat, it's insane. It's to the Sony standard. You have energy, you have color, you have everything you can ask for. And they took everything they learned and push it. It's as good as Spider-Verse. I would say so. But Spider-Verse also had a lot of things in that direction, in the direction of Spider-Verse. This has a lot of things in the GOAT direction. What I mean is, you are taking two movies that have different flows, and the animation for GOAT has that specific flow that makes sense, that sports flow, that high adrenaline. I don't know if I'm describing things as I want to, but let's just say GOAT has incredible animation, beautiful animation, the top of the top. I don't think we're gonna have a better animated movie by the standards of animation this year. Hoppers. I mean, let's not take Pixar out of discussion. Pixar made CGI. They are the OG. And you can see that here. The animation is full of personality. The animation, it's so cozy and so fluffy and so squishy, and it works. For what Hoppers is, it works because Hoppers is not a highly energetic movie, even though it has some parts where energy was a necessity, and it does it to a T. It's perfect for what Hoppers is. But in this conversation that we have right now about animation, Sony takes the crown. Sony just pushed the animation to a level that Pixar didn't quite reach yet. And that's not a problem, because here, Hoppers does what they do and does it good. Just GOAT and Sony made it better. So now let's go to story. GOAT. Let's start with GOAT, okay? Let's keep it on the GOAT side. It's a sports movie. You know, if you saw any sports movie in your life, you know how this movie goes. It doesn't change nothing. You have the GOAT, it's too small, everybody's like, you can't do this, but gets one shot, does it good because it has passion, and then everybody doubts it, and then it proves the point that everybody can do anything as long as they have passion and they try and they train. Great message, great package. It's just a package that we saw before. Sony, obviously, took the package, made some changes, but overall, it keeps the flow the same. They don't do anything out of the ordinary. But in some cases, I might say Sony rushes things. So, spoilers. I think the breakup at the end, everything happened extremely fast, and I also think that the way they took the goat in also happened pretty fast, and I think the movie has some pacing problems because it just moves so fast, and when the moments are quiet, even though they do make some good quiet moments, I think they rush through most of them. And I think that's the main problem with GOAT. It respects too much the formula. Hoppers! I mean, let's be honest. It's Pixar. They know how to write stories. They've done it for 30 years at this point. And Hoppers, it's made by the guy who made We Bare Bears. And it shows because the concept, even though I saw multiple movies where humans are bad, nature is good, let's save the nature. It's the same with GOAT. It's a classic story. But Pixar just took it and went full on nuts, bunkers. The third act just made me go, I never would have seen Pixar do any of this. And that's just, it made my heart just. This movie knows what it is and goes full on watch me. Spoilers. There was a shark carried by birds, being extremely respectful, the shark, okay? trying to eat a prime minister who was fighting a beaver while thinking he's dreaming like this. What the fuck? What the fuck? How do you do that? How do that was insane. And all credit where credit is due. That was so funny. And by the end of the movie Hoppers, they went into some horror stuff that would have made me, little me, actually scared. So, all due respect for Hoppers, because it had the balls to show some stuff that most studios wouldn't dare show. I mean, I don't see Disney Animation touching any of these type of themes, not even with a 7-meter stick. So, thank you, Pixar. You actually made something insanely fun. And my only problem with the story of Hoppers, it's at the end, Pixar remembered that they are still Pixar, so they tried to make like a tragic death that wasn't really a death. And I think that didn't quite make me as emotional as Pixar wanted me to be. And it's not really a problem because the last shot made me almost tear up. It just, I didn't thought it was a deserved crying. Even though I can see a lot of people cry about this movie. But ironically, I believe that Hoppers, made by Pixar, it's what The Wild Robot, made by DreamWorks, should have been. But for some reason, Hoppers, it's made by Pixar in the DreamWorks style, and The Wild Robot, it's made by DreamWorks in the Pixar style. Strange times, I guess, but point to Pixar. So, we have story and we had animation. Now let's go with... Okay, based on characters. So things I like about the characters in GOAT. I think they are present. I think they have reasons to be there. I think the movie does a very good job to present the characters, even though not very in depth. I mean, I still don't know what the deal is with the ostrich, and I don't even know the name of the ostrich. But I believe it did as good of a job as you can do in a movie that's 1 hour and a half, and you need to focus on one character, but you also need to present the team, so the team is not just nameless character number 3. And at that, good job. Sony did a pretty good job. I really cared about all the characters when the split up happened. I believe every single character had some points in the story where you could see the personality. Even the villain had a good few lines and few interactions with the character and really made me care about it. So, yeah, good job, Gold. You did incredibly well. So, in Hoppers, you have Mabel, obviously the main character. You have King George, the beaver, and also you have Jerry, the prime minister. Other than that, all the characters, I believe, they are pretty much there for the ride and they have zero personality. The bear, which I forgot the name of, is just there. I don't understand why is the lizard, except the memes, the tired beaver and the bear were even in the story? Or why were they helping George? They just didn't tell us. And that's another complaint I have with the Hoppers. And I'm not saying you need to give me the backstory of the bear or something, but give me some reasons I should care. Easy. Or just give me something to work with. I believe Pixar didn't really give me a lot to chew on about all the other characters but the main characters. Even though the main characters I think are extremely funny. I really like the council with the fish and the reptiles and the amphibians and the birds. That was fun. I really like the shark. I just didn't quite get to enjoy the characters, even though they have some moments. Even the scientist. I forgot about the scientist. Can you believe that? It's just another reason why the characters in the movies are just there, but they don't do a lot. So, Sony gets the point for characters. Now let's go on to... This is gonna be the hardest one to pinpoint exactly which music is better because different movies, different styles. Goat has a very much hip hoppy rapping style, like the Spider-Verse movies. And I think it's a very good soundtrack that you can even listen to when going for a walk. So it's good music. And Hoppers, it's more of an orchestral sound. And I believe in the world of the movie, orchestral always will sound better than mixing of some songs. Because in Goat, it feels like you just took some songs and then put them there. While Hoppers have a more classic feel with all the instruments working together, pushing the story forward. So even though I like Hoppers more in the music department, if you like Goat, I fully understand you. You have all the reasons, good soundtrack. I even like some of the songs. I just think Hoppers did a better job in that department. So, 2 for Sony, 2 for Pixar. Who's the winner? And here we have, I think it's pretty obvious. Hoppers, it's everywhere. I've seen so many memes with the lizard.
Lizard, 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 lizard.
I saw so many ads, I saw so many reviews and TikTok videos, even though I don't even have TikTok, and I still saw some of the videos. Hoppers is just everywhere. It made $88 million in the opening week, which, if I read correctly, it's the highest an original movie that's animated made since Coco. And if you are anywhere close on any department with Coco, you are doing something great. And on the other hand, we have Goat. Goat, I believe, is gonna go in history as that movie that happened in the renaissance of Sony. The way Pocahontas exists next to some great giants, and people just don't really care. I mean, I don't really hear a lot about Pocahontas. It's just there. It happened in the Renaissance. People went, people saw it, and it just vanished. And the names like Hercules or Tarzan or Beauty and the Beast, Lion King. Pocahontas just existed, not offending anybody, except the people who are offended by the native representation or whatever. I believe the same is gonna be for Goat. Next year, when Beyond the Spider-Verse releases, everybody will just full on go see that, forgot that Goat ever existed, and Goat is gonna be in a few years just that fun fact, you know. It's not a bad movie, and I think some people might have this movie as their favorite movie, and that's perfectly fine. Enjoy it. It's a good movie. I give it like 3.5 out of 5, which is great. It's actually very good for Sony. But I just think in a few years it's gonna be a fun fact. You hear one day, you know, like, what movie do you like? Goat. Hey, isn't that the movie that Sony did once between extremely good movies like K-pop and beyond? And on the other hand, Hoppers. I love Hoppers. I think Hoppers is the best movie Pixar made in a long time. I believe Hoppers is better than Inside Out 2. I think Hoppers pushed Pixar more than any movie since Soul did. And it's a shame because I think this is the last time we're gonna see the bean mouth style ever used. I believe after Toy Story 5, we're gonna have Gato that has a totally different style. And then sequel, Incredibles 3, Coco 2, so far and so on. But I think this style came alive with Luca, which was a cozy, good movie, and ended up with the best movie that used this style. That's Hoppers. And you should watch Hoppers if you didn't already. It's extremely good, extremely nice, extremely beautiful, extremely insane. It's just a feel good movie and a very funny movie. But watch Goat also. Put some love on Sony also, because it's not a bad movie. And I saw a lot of interviews with the people that worked on it, and they are very passionate about it. And it's not a soulless movie. It's definitely a movie with soul, just like Hoppers. But today, Pixar took the crown back for the moment, because we still have DreamWorks, we still have Disney. Even Illumination showed some resemblance of trying to make a good movie. Who knows? I definitely don't. But see you soon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. Bye.